So this is blackberry pruning class, but we're going to start off with talking a little bit about grapes. This is my grapes over here, some of my grapes over there, they're everywhere. And something about sturdiness. If you can look over here, you'll see I have a bar on top and the posts are evenly spaced. Over here with this grape arbor, the posts are not spaced close enough. And about 4 years ago, I had that bar, which you can just barely see. I'm gonna step on things now. Right in here, and you see right there in the middle, I had to put that post in there because that bar was bending down about that far, about a foot down with all the weight of the grapes. So making sure you have posts far enough in between is very, very important. That's why I have this over here. Blackberries are on a 5-wire, grapes are always on a 2-wire. This keeps the weight of the blackberry vines from going down too much like this. That could be worse. So you want to make sure you get the proper amount of strength on your trellis support. Trellising them is probably my way of keeping the production up, and you get them off the ground, you get the things going. And my wife picked this morning, and I think that puts us officially at these 2 plants, and this plant over here is not very big, at 10 gallons. 10 gallons off of pretty much 1 plant. And you can tell that they're pretty much picked out. Oops, that's the new one. They're pretty much picked out. But hey, here you go, YouTube. Have a blackberry. Yum, 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 yum.
What do you do with 10 gallons of blackberries?
Eat them as fast as I possibly can. My wife has food issues, and so she can't eat more than a cup a day. And the rest of them, they go into jelly, and they're going to turn into family and neighbor Christmas gifts. Because there's no way I can, 10 gallons roughly turns into 5 gallons of juice, because I run them through my masticating juicer, and it takes out all the pits and the skins and the little holes in there, so I get about half as much juice out of them as I do fresh blackberries.
But if you're going to have problems in the world, this is one of the best problems ever.
One of the best problems in the world to have. Too many blackberries, which I think is not a good proper sentence in English. Pardon me. There she goes. Okay, so basic idea behind blackberries, except for the brand new Primocane blackberries, which I'm unsure how to prune, and I'm not going to pay too much attention to those things today, or maybe ever in my lifetime, because like a lot of things, the first issue of something really cool, like a Primocane blackberry, which produces twice a year and produces on both the new canes and the old canes, the production stinks. You know, I had the Primark Freedom, I had it over there, and I had it for a couple of years, and it got to be about that big, and I think I might have got less than a dozen blackberries off it. Okay, so blackberries, dirt doesn't matter, but as a general rule, you have the difference between Primocane and floricane. So Primocane is this thing right here. That primo means first. This is the first cane comes up in year 1. Next year, this is what's going to produce the berries. That's these ones. These canes over here, these are a year old. They came up in 22. And what you do for these things, goodness me, look at how many berries are. Oh, there's another one.
Look at all those hidden underneath there.
They're all hidden in there. And by the way, the better ones aren't in the sunshine. They're down there underneath the shade. So if you have a possibility,
keep that up for about 15 minutes.
if you have a method of getting some shade on these things, come over here, Malie. This is what happens in full sun. This is the south side since you're not here. See that?
What mine look like.
Yeah, they got too much sun on them.
Yeah.
They're still okay. They could be better. But if you put too much sun on them, they kind of burn up. Now, welcome to Utah. This is a desert. Anywhere else in the world, they're going to be, you know, except for desert, Southwest, something like that. And there are other varieties of blackberries and raspberries that you can get that are much more heat tolerant. I just happen to like this one because it's really, really productive and really, really good. How good was that this morning, Molly?
Oh my word.
That sounds good. All right. So once again, the first thing you need to think about is one. I think when you're putting them in, you need to put your trellis in. Here it is. It's 5.5 feet tall. It's 30 inches wide. This seems to work. You can go a little bit wider if you want to. If you look over there, those are all first year berries.
Bobby planted more.
I did plant more.
30
I'll have
gallons. Huh.
at least. Maybe I'll package those in drums and sell them at Walmart. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, they're just so lovely. What you got, Molly?
Oh, oh, it says can be raspberry.
Raspberry, yeah. Still left the tags on there for when I had raspberries over there.
Get that material for the trellis.
These came from Northwest Fence. Okay, you can pick it up at Home Depot or any place else like that. Any place with fencing supplies. This I think is 1.25. That's 2.5. And yes, there's concrete in the base. You don't want them wobbling. What else we got? Oh, my goodness. It's Blackberry Fest. So once these floricanes have done producing, it's time to take them out because they're done. And yes, you can all see that there are blackberries on here, but these things are nothing compared to the ones that started off at the 1st of August. They were mostly that big. Now they're that big, and they're a little bit of a disappointment. And yes, if anybody wants to come out of YouTube and come over to my place and pick blackberries right now, you're welcome to, but it's gonna be gone before you get this thing edited. Too bad you're not here. We'll do this again next year. So let's see. Let me grab a lopper. So now we are going to cut.
So is there a way to know which ones are the first and the second year?
Yes. There's no
Those don't have
there's
any
no
seeds.
flowers, there's no berries. There's no flowers, there's no berries.
I cut those down last year.
Yep. And that's what you do. And you see this one right here?
Flowers, no berries, the new one.
No flowers, no berries is a new one.
them alone.
If you got berries on it,
Cut the whole thing off.
cut the whole thing off, and we're going to cut that thing down to the ground. All the way to the ground.
Oh, that whole big
That whole thing comes out. This one down here.
that
And sometimes you got to get in there and cut it a few more times because it's all tangled up with everything else, and you don't want to cut.
That's a nice thick cane.
He had to thresh it, strap it up this
I
year.
saw that over there.
Yeah, and here we go. See that? Is that a good one?
Oh my word.
It was, yep.
She cut it out 2 feet off the ground.
No, you cut it all the way to the ground. I just haven't gotten to the ground yet. I haven't got that far yet.
So now, why are you doing it this time of year?
I do it this time of year because I know everybody else, including the our local extension office, says do this in the wintertime. You know, and I think they do that mostly for convenience because it's just all the leaves are gone. It's easy to see. You know, you can look up there and see that, oh, hey, look, that one's got little berry stubs on there. I should cut that one there off. And yes, we will cut that one there off.
So since it's better in shade, is it better to put like a shade thing over it?
I think if you have this thing in the full sun, I think something like what Malie was showing me yesterday on her pawpaw video, that little shade cloth she's got on top of her pawpaws, that'd be great.
Yeah, and I'm only going to do that once they start turning red and look like they're going to start ripening. Because I don't want to exclude the bees. And then maybe on the cooler days, pull it back or something.
How do you tell when they're ready to pick?
They'll come off without having to yank.
And normally they will, you'll get a little bit of a dulling of the shine on them.
I like them a little more firm.
She does.
I like them a little softer. My test is
That one right there,
you just
it's still kind of shiny.
hold it and
That's
enough of a
still a little tart.
then that was a little bit my style.
Okay.
If it's
That one's shiny. This one here is not.
touch,
See how it's got a little bit duller?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Pulls right off.
that needs
Mm.
closer to this.
Okay.
You know.
Blackberry break. So is that
Yeah, blackberry break, yep.
The whole
is the
Go ahead, blackberries.
yeah, I like them.
Also, Malie, come here.
and that would be picking them early.
Looking right here.
Okay.
If you get a little snap when you pull, that's going to be on the edge of the part.
That's a new one. That's green.
Oh, okay. And then this one's brown.
There's your old one.
Inside,
So we've got green and healthy,
and then you can
all the way up, no little blackberries. And that has, it just looks like an older branches.
You know, blackberries, if you let this branch go and hit the ground, it will root. And you will have another berry plant.
all the different stages
Oh,
here late in the
anybody want to help me
season.
with these?
These two probably needed a couple
Everybody
more
wants to
days
help
in
me
the
with
sun. This one's probably ready by the end of the day.
Okay.
And then all of these were
Want some of these, Cindy?
No,
just going to be
I
small
have so many at home that I need
and
to
take a while if they'd ripen at all with the weather.
so many.
Primocane is done. There's nothing left going on. And that's the good one. Don't cut the good one again, Dan.
You don't have to be precise like roses. Put them, you know, cut it at this angle. You know, underneath this knob.
You know, I am still always a proponent of making good cuts. Okay, so we have one on top here.
So how long do you let those go? How wide, long do you let those?
Well, I got 10 gallons off of that one, and I think it went to here. And of course, that overshadowed this one, and now that this one is going to get big enough to start producing, I'll probably cut this one here back a bit. Who's been chomping on there? That looked like airway damage. That's what I get for having bark down there. So we have this one there. I'm going to take this one here and put it here.
So there's no need to shorten those side canes.
That we will, but not just yet.
Okay.
Not just yet.
Now, did you top those canes at all? Or did it just naturally start side branching?
It does that on its own. And there we go. Now on the big Primocanes here, and I agree with the extension service on this one. What happens is you've got the cane here. This part right here is the cane. Okay. And this part right here is the spur. Okay. What they normally say is that if you, because the berries are produced on the spurs, generally not the canes. There's more berries going to be here than right here. There will be berries there, as you guys notice when you're getting there picking the ones in the shade.
I'm gonna take
So next year, will those grow any longer?
Yes, they will. As a matter of fact, they'll grow longer this year. But what we want to do next is we want to get these so that they will produce more clusters of them on here. Let me show you something here. This was the cane, okay?
That was the thing. Okay.
Well, excuse me, this is probably a spur right here.
Yes,
This is probably a spur. And then what we're doing here is that.
Okay, that
And that. We're going to cut the tiny ends off. And what's going to happen now, especially after we throw some of that calcium nitrate on there, is it's going to think, it's summer, I lost all my foliage. Look at all this foliage over here just lost. I got to grow. And that's what it's going to do. And instead of growing longer, which we might want it to do, but this one over here is, no, excuse me, that's this one, is going to overpower this one. So I'm going to cut it off there. That's nice and soft. There, there, there. Oop, missed one. And we're going to keep this.
So you're forcing secondary.
Instead of growing this way some more, it's going to start growing there and there and there and there.
So did you cut it off all of them?
I cut the tips off of all of the canes. And then what happens is this happens. So instead of having this cane over here, and then you have a cluster coming out of there, You've got this happening, and then you've got this entire spur spur on a spur coming on, and then you get all this. Instead of getting that much, you get the rest of those, and you're going to double your production at least.
Okay.
That's why I got 10 gallons off of this thing.
Okay, that's good to know.
But it will send more spurs off of that.
It will send more spurs off of these things.
And then it produces at the end of the spurs.
It produces at the end.
It's a good trick.
Will it only do that if you cut the tips off?
If you don't cut the tip off, it wants to keep growing that away. That's where it's focusing all of its energy right now, and it's still summer. You can tell that because I'm sweating. Makeup! I'm on YouTube. And then I'll start forcing it out of these little axles. Come here, Millie. There it is. There's that spur on a spur. See, here's the cane right here. Here's the spur. And here's the next little leaf sprout. It's coming out of these leaf axles. And if you cut this off, like I just did, these will start to grow now. And these will get that long, and you have berries like crazy instead of a little cluster of berries right there.
Aha.
You can cut more off of it too. It's not just.
And I am going to be cutting more off of this because I got to make sure all these things are dead-ended. By the way, if you're going to do blackberry cuttings, you have to cut them off the Primocanes. Cut them off the floricanes, they will die. Because they're done. They're done for the season, and they're going downhill this winter. They're due to die. So you have to take the cuttings off here.
Or in your own garden, all you have to do is bury the tip.
Bury the tip. Or if you don't want to be messy like that, you take this, you put this in a plug flat, give it some bottom heat, and then if you fill up the 72 plug flat, you'll have 72 blackberry plants next year. You know, and they should be about that big if you know what you're doing. Because we want to have more stuff happening there.
Now explain why you're putting calcium in the soil.
Calcium nitrate. If you've ever looked at a bag of fertilizer, you'll look at the back and it'll explain how much type of nitrogen you have in there. And it says 14.5% nitrate nitrogen and 1% ammoniacal nitrogen. And then it'll go into tell you all those other ways they formulated the nitrogen. The calcium in here, when you grow something like this, nitrogen, as most people know, is responsible for stem development and leaf development. If you put calcium nitrate on there, it'll take this interval between the stems, between the leaves, and shorten them up.
Oh.
You'll have more leaves per stem if you use calcium nitrate. If you just use the nitrate nitrogen or ammoniacal nitrogen, you get really long stems and have a lot of space in between. And as we just discussed, we know that right there, that is where your blackberries are going to come from. And I want more blackberries, so if I have 10-foot cane, I don't want 20 little stems coming off. I want 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what's different in that fertilizer from what's already in the soil?
The calcium in the soil. I don't have too much calcium in the soil here. I know everybody's got it over here. If you live below Lake Bonneville, you've got calcium in the soil. This stuff here is bound with it, and so I'm just going to use it this year and see how well that works. And you don't want to put too much of this on there, but it is summer. You don't want over nitrogen stuff. You just want to give this thing some motivation to put some of these little axles, get some of these axles going. That's there.
Well, blackberries are so cold hardy anyway that new growth this time of year is not going to be a problem.
The leaves, the vast majority of these leaves will be on there next spring. They may be dead. Some of them may be dead. Since I'm treating these here like canes, hoping spurs are going to come out, I'm going to take some of these canes which are not winding. I'm going to take these things here down to 20 inches, because as you remember noticing over here with the ratchet strap holding them up, it's because it got too long.
Okay.
And if it gets too long, you're gonna regret it. Or you're gonna get a ratchet strap and do it that way. Varieties, Triple Crown seems to produce the best here. It really does. And here for the YouTube audience is Great Basin, Utah County. There are other varieties that will produce better elsewhere, I think, you know, but I live here and I know here, you know, but Triple Crown is
Talk to the
generally,
extension service and see what
we could talk to the extension service and they may say the same thing. You can talk to the nurseries, and of course the nursery is always motivated to sell you a plant, you know, and that's fine. That's what they're in business for. And if they happen to have all of the Triple Crowns, which is doubtful because they always say Triple Crown's the best, they're all gone and you're left with everything else then. Black Satin is a really, really good berry. You know, a lot of people will say, if you want to be objective about it, that it is the best berry out there. Unfortunately, other than being the best berry, it is number 2, not as productive as Triple Crown, and 3, it's ripe for about 3 days. Those berries, individual berries, not the whole plant, is ripe for about 3 days, and after that they turn to juice as you pick them, and you get purple fingers like I'm getting so far at the end of blackberry season.
Okay.
Black Satin is an excellent berry, and if you're going to get more than one berry here in the Great Basin, you ought to consider having a Black Satin. You know, and if you don't like it after 5 years, hey, get a shovel, you know, and get another
one.
and get another one. And I think I've got 1, 2. That was supposed to be 2, and 3, 4. I've got 2 other varieties. I think one of them is a I forget the 2 others, and I think that one right there is one of the Indian varieties. Indian varieties are supposed to have better taste to them. They're supposed to be more upright, and I don't see any of them that are sticking straight up. Maybe it is that one right there. That's a possibility, you know. But yeah, the Indian varieties go straight up. You know, I think it's Wachita, O-A-C-H-I-T, Wachita. Okay, that might be what's going on there, because these other ones over here may not be the ones I'm thinking of.
Okay.
You should always put your labels on and then take the old labels off, because they ain't raspberries.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate this. This has been great.
Yes, thank
Yay.
you. It was very helpful.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.